Everybody standing today in Jesus' name. And the church said, praise the Lord. Clap your hands to the Lord, everybody. Let's give him praise. Let's continue to pray. Last week, this is a new week, so last week we had several people with surgery. Sister Mitchell is recovering well. Brother Anthony texted today, wants to thank everybody for their prayers. Sister Janice had surgery last week. She's recovering, and we want to continue to pray fervently for Brother Conrad Simmons. Ask the Lord to touch him. He really needs prayer, and touch Sister Evelyn, this family, and ask for strength for them. We want to pray for Sister Sandra Reynolds. She had surgery last week, and several more that were sick. I don't have their names with me at this point, but we want to pray that God's touch would be upon them. Pray for the Dentons today. They're down in Warner Robins, Georgia, having a great family conference down there with Pastor Gray. What an incredible church that is. And I got to watch a little bit, and Brother Jonathan and Sister Brandy being used of the Lord there. Pray for them. They've had a heavy weekend. Then we'll preach and drive a long drive back today. Pray God's mercies for them. Several of our families out of town, and you know how we do that. We just send out a prayer of protection for them. We're going to have a great day today. What you're about to hear, I'm extremely excited about, and we're going to try to push and promote that with the church, and we're going to have a blessed time today. Lift your hands to heaven, if you would. Every single person that's physically capable, put those hands in the air. Lord, we thank you today. Ask, Lord, that you would heal these needs that have been mentioned. Sister Sandra, Sister Stephanie, Sister Janice, these that have had surgeries this week. God, I pray, Lord, for Brother Conrad and this family, that you would strengthen them in their time of sickness, in their time of pain. Give us a great Bible class today with Brother Matt and Sister Kiara as they present the work that they're about to do. When we go into worship, Lord, let your glory fill this place. And we ask for your blessings in the name of the Lord. Of G, and everybody clap your hands one time to the Lord. Come on, do it better than that. Down at the cross where my Savior died. Come on, sing that with me. Down where for cleansing from sin I cried. There to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to his name. Put your hands together, say it with me. Wonderful name. Oh, glory to his name. There to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to his name. I am so wondrously saved from sin. Jesus so sweetly abides within. There at the cross where he took me in. Glory to his name. Help me sing it. Glory to his name. Glory to his name. There to my heart was the blood applied. I like this last verse. Come to this fountain that's so rich and sweet. Cast thy poor soul at the Savior's feet. Oh, plunge in today and be made complete. Glory, glory, glory to his name. Everybody help me sing it. Glory to his name, precious name. Glory to his name. There to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to, everybody clap, everybody sing one more time. Glory to his name, precious name. Glory to his name. to my heart was the blood applied. Glory to his name. Praise him with a hand praise today. Why don't you quickly take your seats? Years and years ago, we would talk about things concerning convicting messages at youth camps, conferences, on and on and on. Listen to me real close. I'm going to be up here about 60 to 90 seconds. And you would see people run to the altar with the call of God on their life, and oh, what a challenging time that was, and thank God for it. There has been some concern. It's okay for me to admit that. You got on blue and gray too. Wow, good minds think alike. Sorry, I'm spastic. It just happens. And there's been concern today because you hear such messages, and we're wondering where the call is, where's the response. We have such a response today. Brother Matt, Sister Kiara, MJ are going to be full-time missionaries in Mexico. And in a world, listen to me, in a world, why you want to do that? My reply is, why not? If the gospel's got to be preached to the whole world, come on, somebody's got to do it. And since me and you don't want to go, we got to. Just kidding. When they approached me about that, it was pretty amazing. I told them we would be their biggest fans. I will come back today with a charge and a challenge for some stuff that we're going to set up in the future. But this is not my time slot. It's theirs. Give Brother Matt and Sister Kiara a great hand as they come today. Everybody listen close today. And let's really pay attention. They're already sitting down on the job. Praise. Oh, God.
Praise the Lord, church. It is so good to be here and be presenting our vision to you all. But we would like to go through how we got to where we are now. And so I'm going to give you the outline and the story of that. And if you would, bear with me. So back in January of this year, I was laying in bed one night awake, and Kiara fast asleep, snoring to the heavens, giving God all praise and glory and honor. As I was praying, God, please, no. True story. No. So she was asleep, and I was laying there, and I believe God impressed upon my heart Mexico. And I'm just like, no, Lord, I don't know what you're talking about. For the people that know me, especially Kiara, knows that I am a homebody person. I love I like going out doing things, I think we all do, but I love being at home. I love having that place at the end of the day where I can come back and know that it's mine and everything there, it's ours. And so with that being said, I believe in missions. I believe in foreign missions. I believe in home missions. I even went to a home missions church in Lexington, Kentucky for 4 years. I learned a lot, and it was absolutely amazing. What little did I know at that time, 4 years ago, that God was preparing myself, and then once Kiara and I got married, preparing us to this role that we're in now. Even preparing us to be youth pastors. So to God be the glory about that. So I love missions. I love home missions. I love foreign missions. And so I woke Kiara up that night, and I told her, I said, what do you think about being a missionary in Mexico? And with full-on, from dead asleep to full-on excitement, she started asking all these questions. Now, Kiara has always had a heart for missions. When we first got married, she asked me, she said, what do you think about being missionaries in Mexico? Nope, not me, I'm not going. That's just not going to happen, And so she started asking all these questions. I told her, I said, I'll go back to sleep. We'll talk about it the next day. And so I went back to sleep. And that was all God, said was Mexico missionaries. And I was like, all right, that was it. That was enough for me. I didn't have to ask any more questions at the time. And so we got up and we discussed that the next day. And we was like, all right, here we are. We're missionaries. And you would think that would be the end of it. What little did we know, it was only the beginning of where we are now and the process that we had to go through and all the steps that we had to take in order to get to where we are now and for God to prepare us for everything that's going to happen in the future. So we prayed about it, and we talked to Pastor and Brother Jonathan about it. We fasted about that. We prayed some more about it, and we asked God, why me? I asked God that question a lot. Why me? Why us? Why Kiara and I and MJ? Why would you send us? What's so special about us? What do we have? I don't know any Spanish at all. I just know gorditas and burritos and tacos. That's about all that I know. I'm not making fun, but that's it. It's very limited. And that's not Spanish, but I wouldn't starve. I tell you that much now. So, I asked that question over and over, and I didn't even understand, why God? Why me? Why? And not that I was frustrated with God. Not that I was saying, God, this isn't for me, because I woke her up and said, God has called us. But I wanted to know why. And so one day on the way to work, early that morning of this year, I was asking God, why me? And I began to tell him of all the different people that go to FAC that would be more qualified than myself, that would be more qualified than Kiara and I together. And I began to name all these people off that I thought were more qualified. And when I got to the end of that, and on the way back home that evening, so I left the house at 7. I'm coming back home at about 5 that evening. God hadn't spoke that whole entire time, that whole day. And I was still asking myself, why me? And so on the way back home, I was coming down Kirby Road in Portland, past Unipress, and I got in this curve, and God just said, willingness. And that was it. It wasn't this, this epic answer that I was looking for, this drawn out process. God, I want every little detail. He just said willingness. And I was like, all right, God, that's good enough. So I told Kiara, I said, God told me why he wanted us to move to Mexico. And I gave her the same answer, willingness. And it almost was like, okay, what else did God say? I'm just like, that's it. I said, I've got nothing else to tell you. That's it. Willingness is that one word that he gave me. And we trusted in that one word, willingness, because we were willing. And you would think at that point, all right, that's the end of that. We are missionaries now. Let's go straight to the mission field. Don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that takes and what that actually means. But we are missionaries. But what little did we know, and I wish it was that easy, but what little did we know, it was more work to that than just saying we're missionaries. It's a lot more. It's one thing to move. When I was single and before Kiara and I got married, I moved to Lexington, Kentucky, and it was crazy for me to move from Nashville, my home, where I was born and I was raised, and I knew a lot of people and had all my family here, and for me to live 4 hours away from them to where I knew no one. I mean, everybody I knew was 4 hours away. I didn't know anyone. And so that was a tough struggle for me then. I'm pretty sure this move will be, but it just hasn't hit me yet, I guess you would say. Some areas it has, but I wish it was that easy to be a missionary. So we went back and we talked to Pastor DJ and Brother Jonathan again, and we just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page, that God has spoke to all 4 of us, including Sister Carl and Sister Brandy, all 6 of us, that we were all on the same page. And so it comes back, Pastor and Brother Jonathan and their wife said, we haven't got any red flags. We don't have a bad feeling about this. God hasn't said otherwise about you not going. So we're all on board. We're all on the same page. So God does back up what he tells you with the leadership of the church. If you just ask, pray, seek, fast, he will put everybody on the same page at the same time. So that was a good feeling. So we talked to Sister Mary Mitchell, and we talked to her. We said, hey, we feel led to come down there and speak to you guys. And work with you and partner with you. And she said, all right, let me pray and fast about it. And so that was like at the end of February, beginning of March. And time she come to missions conference this year, we met up with her over in the fellowship hall, had lunch. She said, I don't have any red flags. Y'all come on down. We was like, all right. So here comes April. So we went from January of praying and fasting, talking to our leadership, and getting answers and words from God, 4 months of that. And then April comes up, we planned a missions trip to Mexico with Kiara and MJ, and he was only age 3 at the time. And so I didn't know what to expect. Kiara's been there by herself several times, but it was new for me. I've never been out of the States. I've never been to a different country. So we packed our bags, and we prepared to go down there and work with Sister Mary. And so we began to fleece the Lord, and everything that we prayed about, God answered. We prayed about our jobs and MJ's schooling and our passports, and everything just worked out perfectly. And so we got to Sister Mary's. We stayed there for 3 weeks. We had 4 suitcases, a month full of clothes, and we took every medication that we had in the house. If it was one Tylenol, we scooped it out of the cabinet and took it with us. We were just afraid of getting sick over, in a different country, and our insurance not covering that, so we preventive maintenance. So we took everything we had with us, and God done an amazing work. We evangelized to the people there. We went out, we done outreach, and Kiara and I, we took turns speaking and preaching at different churches, and Sister Mary showed us all the 5 churches that she has hand-started there and gave us her personal testimony, how she went there for 6 weeks when she was in her 20s, and she come back to the States and sold everything that she had and moved right down there. Didn't know a lick of Spanish, she said. She said, all I knew was no, because it translates all the same in every language. And I was like, all right, there's hope for me. There's hope for me. So she said about 3 or 4 years, she said in that 4th year, she just felt like that Spanish wasn't really coming to her, even though she studied and practiced and prayed, that God began to opening her mind up and just allowing her to understand the language and understand the culture there. And so that gave me a lot of hope once we got there. Now, to say that I knew where God wanted us to be in the beginning, I would say yes, that Saltillo, Mexico was it with Sister Mary. But once we got there, I felt like Abram, which is Abraham. So if I say Abraham, know that I'm talking about the same person. And so I'm going to read Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 4. The Lord has said to Abram, leave your country and your people, your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you. And I'm reading the NIV version. Verse 2. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. And I will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. And all the people on the earth will be blessed through you. So Abram left, and the Lord had told him. So Abraham left here. God told him, he said, leave your household, leave your family, leave the country. And he said, I will take you to a place that I have shown you. Now, Abraham just got up and went because he didn't know where God was taking him, but he had to trust in God. He had to rely on God. And I feel like that's where we were once we got to Saltillo, Mexico. We thought that was the place that God was calling us, but God began to show us a new vision, and we just didn't quite feel God's calling there in Saltillo. And we love Saltillo. It's more Americanized. I think we would adopt easier there, and things would go along a lot smoother for us. But at the same time, God was wanting to take us to a land that we had not seen before, that we were not used to, that we would not just fall back in, I guess, our American ways. I guess you would kind of put it that way, fall into our American ways to where, God, we really don't have to rely on you because there's a H-E-B, which is like a glorified Kroger's there in Mexico. Absolutely amazing. So, and they do have a lot of non-free dairy products, which would be great for MJ. We could find everything that he eats and that we need for him there to make him feel more at home. And so, as I begin to think about Abraham, I begin to realize that Abram was obedient to God and leaving his home and country, and by trusting God and letting God guide him and take care of him, all because God promised him one thing: I will bless you. You will be blessed wherever you go. And we just stand on that promise that we're blessed here in the States, we're blessed here in America, but we do feel like that we will be blessed wherever we go because God has called us. And so the title of my message today is From Here to There. It's that simple. It's not something, absolutely amazing. It's not that we are turning our lives upside down, or I guess you would say in a way or a sense. But from here to there, missions, they start at home. Kiara and I, we went to a home missions church. If you leave our parking lot here at FAC, you'll see signs that says your mission field starts here. So we started here in our mission field. The second thing I want to point out about Abram is, as he did with Abram, God has called us all to be followers of Christ, to leave the former life in order to follow Jesus. Now, you may think to yourself, Brother Matt, what do you mean by your former life? If you were in sin, you're leaving that former life. If you had a problem with smoking or drinking or clubbing or whatever that may look like for you, you are giving up that former life to follow Christ. So Kiara and I have done the same thing. We have given up our former life to put on the coat of Christ, to put on the cloak of Christ, and to follow after him, and even given up our former life here in the States in order to be used and follow Christ. And we pray, say, God, use us great and mightily, not that we're trying to, draw attention to ourselves, but we just want to be used by God. That's all it boils down to. Not to bring attention to us, not say, oh, look at Matt and Kiara. That's not what it is. And we have struggled with that, I would think sometimes, you're going to have a great name. You're going to be a missionary. I'm just thinking to myself, I know that's not God because I don't think that at all, It's just not something that I would think. And it's not about having a great name and being put on a pedestal and being better. That's not it. So we stayed with Sister Mary for 3 weeks in Saltillo, Mexico. We evangelized there. We ministered to people. We just seen everything that she has done in the last 36 plus years that she has been there. And it's absolutely amazing. A woman that is single, that has started 5 churches and birthed that and built it up from nothing to where it is now, and they are sustaining and living and thriving. It's absolutely amazing. And I think if any individual can do that, it's absolutely amazing. So she advised us, and as we were praying, we just felt like Saltillo wasn't for us. She said, go and visit Stephen Tolman. And we was like, all right, how far is that from here? She said, it's about a 3.5-hour drive. And she said, but I can't drive you there just because she's just not able to do that and go that far. Drive 3.5 hours there and then 3.5 hours back, and the tolls would be very expensive. So we and MJ, we packed our bags up. We took a Greyhound bus, 3.5 hours in a different country to a place that I have never been. And Kiara was telling me just how great Greyhounds, the buses are there, and how luxury they are. There's TVs in the seats, and they give you your own little personal headphones, and they got you a lunch. I was like, Lord, I'm riding first class on this bus, We get to the bus station, and it pulls up. It looked great on the outside. I was super excited. I said, this is going to be great. We get on there. Everybody packs on that bus. Every seat was full, not a vacant seat left. I didn't get any headphones. My seat did not recline. There was not a TV in front of me. I don't know what she was talking about. So comes to find out, those type of buses you get when you're taking 8 to 10 hour trips across Mexico, not 3-hour trips. So that was a surprise number one for me. And I was like, all right, Lord, it is what it is. So we got on that bus. We loaded up. And as soon as we pulled out of the gate, the bus stopped. I said, oh, God, we broke down already. Well, it turns out that the bus driver was picking up a passenger. I was like, oh, maybe he's running behind. And I was like, there's no seats left. And so he sat at the steps of the bus. And I was just like, this is dangerous already. And the whole entire way, 3 hours and 3.5 hour trip turned into like 4 hours because we had to make so many stops, letting people on and off. And you're sitting there, honestly, you're cramped beside the person, and you have the aisleway that is packed full of people that have trying to get to A to B, that have paid a ticket just like Kiara and I have, to ride on a bus, to get to work, to get home to their kids, wherever they may have been going. And you have people all on your shoulder, their rear ends in your face, and you're just like, God, is it worth it? Is it worth it? So we take that trip to Brother Stevens. We arrive there safely, and Kiara gets off the bus. She's like, I'm at home. I said, we're not at home. And she just thinks because she's been to San Pedro twice before that everybody down there knows her and that she's, famous in that area. I don't know, So I guess maybe being the only black person there, you might be famous, They may never, ever forget you. So, so with that being said, she goes around the corner, and she's like, I'll be right back. And I'm there with MJ and 4 luggage and suitcases, looking around like this. And, oh, God, I got to watch out for everybody. Just my mindset of ignorant, just being where I was then. And this is in April. And God just began to work, and we visit the Tomans, and he started showing us all the works that he had going on there, and every church plant and sister plant, and then he showed us a church in Knossos, and we really love Brother Stephen Thomas' church. He even has air conditioner in there now. It's absolutely amazing when it's 100 degrees outside and it's 85 in his building. It feels good if you don't move. So we donated from FAC, and we begin to, trust God and all of that. And one thing that I want to point out here is in Genesis 13, verses 8 through 13. God told Abraham to get up and go in chapter 12. And in verse 13, he told him and Lot to split up because their herds were too big, even though they were brothers. He told them to split up, and you go this way. He said, Lot, wherever you pick to go, I will go the opposite direction that you go in. So Lot picked a land that was beautiful, that was green, and the water flowed through there, and it would sustain him and his people and his cattle. I would love to have a mission field like that. If God said, Matt, go to Hawaii, wherever you pick to go to Costa Rica, go to somewhere on the beaches of Mexico, yes, Lord, I'll go. No question asked. But we pick the rocky ground that doesn't have a lot of water, that goes into drought several times a year, and it's hard to have vegetation that grows and dust everywhere. That's the area that we picked. That's the area that we fell in love with. And we thought Saltillo was it. But like I said, we had to trust on God once we got to Mexico. And we thought that everything was in order. And so we got to Knossos, Durango, and we've got a couple of pictures that we want to show you of what this place looks like.
This is Knossos, Durango, and this is where the Lord ended up leading us in the long run. And just to fill in, because Matt is telling his version of how God spoke to him, but what's so amazing is that one thing that you have to remember is when you are married, you are one. God makes you one. And so whenever the Lord speaks something to my husband, he always confirms it to me as well. And so while he's having his own things and the Lord is speaking to him, I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, I need you to speak to me. I have my own relationship with God. I am my own person. And Lord, I need you to speak to me on behalf of us. And the Lord did that. I was driving home from work, and this was after we bought our house, and I was super excited to see this fence that we were building, that we had put up in the backyard of our house. And as soon as I came home, I saw the fence from a distance, and if anybody's been to our house, we have almost a whole acre. And so we have this big fenced-in backyard. And so I see the fence, and immediately I felt a twisting and a turning in my stomach, and I didn't understand why. and I put my car in park, and something just came over me, and I started to cry, and I said, Lord, I don't understand. Why can't I be happy about this? Why can't I feel incredible about this? And the Lord spoke to me and said, you're just passing through. Don't build a mansion for yourself. After we had prayed for years to buy a house, and no one knows other than our leadership and our closest friends, no one knows the struggle that we had with that. And the moment we got it, the Lord was like, are you willing to give it up for me? And that's where we were. At the same time, we were also praying for the youth group, and we were praying for God to show us how to do things different, to show us how to reach out more, to show us how to grow more. All these different things we were praying. And what's funny about it is that the Baxters were coming up to us saying, hey, do you know, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? What do you think about this? And these are the untold stories that people don't know. And we were starting to get frustrated because we told ourselves, we was like, God, you're giving us these messages, but we feel like you're giving us something different. And so we were praying for clarification. And while we were praying for clarification is when the Lord woke up my husband and spoke to him about Mexico. Little did he know is that I was pulled to the side by the Baxter family, and I was told, when you're ready, we're ready. God confirms his word. We had never even told them we were going to Mexico. We had never said anything to anybody other than our leadership. God confirms his word. And so this is the church in Nashville, Durango, Iglesia Libertad. And what's so amazing about this building is that this building was given to the Tolmans. It was given to them. It's a huge building. And it was given to them fully furnished with seats, fully furnished with instruments, fully furnished with a sound system. There's also a balcony in the building for growth. Absolutely amazing. And what's interesting about this area, many people hear of the drug cartel. Yes, the cartel is in Mexico. Well, guess what? We have issues here as well. Okay? While we were here, there were shootings happening right down the road from our house where somebody had went and shot and killed all kind of people and families. And I live in a wonderful area, and this was happening. And this was happening in our area. Yet we were nice and safe in Mexico. And so this place, people have come and gone in Nassas to try to reach people, and due to certain things that's happened in the area, nothing has ever planted. And so this has been a remote area of unreached people, and this building has been there. And so when the Tolmans came into the picture and started making connections, they were just given this because the people here are so desperate to hear about Jesus. They're so desperate. There's more kids in this area than we've ever seen. Kids who are living in homes by themselves, kids who don't have any parents. As we go through some of these pictures, you can keep going, you'll see that many of these outreach projects that are being done, there's no adults there. This is, go back, one. This is Paloma and Sammy and their family, and they've actually just recently had their third child. And I met Paloma and Sammy the first time I went to Mexico under the leadership of the Wochicks on my first missions trip back when I was 19. And so it's amazing to see this come back full fold. When I met them, they were singles. They had been witnessed to through Brother Tolman's ministry, through their drug ministry, through different gang violence, through all these different things, and their testimony is personal for them to share, but it's amazing what their story is. And then to see them together, and they've only been in this area for a year now, so this is new to them as well, but God is working and God is moving, and they have been praying for people to come and to help them and to join with them and leadership team to help with this area. You can keep going. And one of it is because in Nashville, Durango, that is like a city, but within the city, there's these places called rancheros. And this is one of the rancheros and one of the outreaches that they do. Notice you see all the kids. There is no building for these areas. There's only one building in the entire city. This is another place, La Purisma, with another outreach area. There are about five rancheros within the city of people who have never been reached. This is the Commodore. You can stop. This is the Commodore right here. Now, this Commodore is attached to the church, and basically what they do is they serve food here for many of the kids in the community. In Mexico, the entire system in this area is on a time frame. So, and it's funny because when we went to Saltillo's, certain places in Saltillo's like that too, and we had to educate our kids about that. Here, you can just go down the road and get something to eat anytime that you want. Well, it's not there. That's not the case. If it's not lunchtime, it's closed. If it's not breakfast, it's closed. And so if you don't have the money, or if you don't have certain things that you need, it's easy to go and not have anything to eat at a certain time. And so for this community, they came up with the Commodore. And Sammy and Paloma, they work in the Commodore. They use their own funds. They use their own money. Oftentimes, this is where they eat dinner, just because it's such a very poor area, and they eat dinner with the people. Go ahead. This is the inside of the Commodore, and it's not super big, but it's huge within the community. And so why Mexico? Well, why is because God called us. We are willing, we're obedient, and God always confirms his word. And so the Lord spoke willing to Matt, but I received a message, and the message for me said, it's not can you, it's will you. Many can and won't, few will and trust. And this was right after Pastor had sent me an email, and Pastor said, I'm really praying for you and Matt today, and I'm praying that the Lord provides clarity for you guys. And I was like, man, I need God to speak. I need God to speak for me. And then I received this message for us. And so God always speaks. His word never returns to us void. And so if you get anything out of this, it's not necessarily that Matt and Kiara are going to Mexico. It's that trust in the word of God. Trust in that, and trust in your leadership. If you feel led to do something for God, if you feel, and you're like, man, I really feel like the Lord is speaking to me. I really feel like God is wanting me to come out of my comfort zone. This has been on my heart for the longest. God will never speak anything to you that he won't confirm through your leadership. And if it's not being confirmed through your leadership, then you just need to sit still. It's that simple. And that's how it's been every step of the way. There's always an order to God. There's always a way of doing things. God doesn't do anything in confusion. He's not in the midst of confusion. He doesn't do anything in chaos. Next slide. So with this, and Matt spoke on this, so we fleece the Lord just like in Judges. And our fleeces were our passports, our jobs, MJ's school, and then we also wanted to reach the lost. And it's important to remember when you pray, what are the beginning things that you ask the Lord? Because when we got to Saltillo, we were so engulfed, and we loved it there, absolutely loved it. And part of it was, yes, it is slightly Americanized. It's been industrialized. Things have came in, different factories and stuff like that, that we forgot about our fleeces, that we forgot, Lord, we're on a mission. These are our fleeces. And the Lord had not showed us things with jobs. God hadn't showed us things with school. He showed us the loss. And when I say passports, the story behind this is it's very difficult to get a passport for a minor child. And so we were praying for the Lord to rush MJ's passport before missions conference, because when we got to missions conference and we sat down with the missionaries from Mexico at missions conference, if one of them said, just come back with me this week, we wanted to be able to do that. We wanted to be able to say, okay, God, we'll do that. And so if our son's passport was not going to be with us by the time missions conference was over, we took that as a closed door. And I remember I was at work, and I received an email from the government. And I received an email saying that they needed more information for MJ's passport, that his passport wouldn't be in for another 2 weeks. And I was like, well, okay, God, this just may be something that we were excited about. We're not going to go to Mexico. When I got home, his passport was in the mailbox. The Thursday of missions conference. The Thursday. So God showed us that fleece. With my job, we had to pray with our jobs, and we asked for to go in for a month of non-paid leave just so we could go and see the land. That's unheard of. And what my husband doesn't tell people is that he is the only company driver for his job. Therefore, if he's not driving, if he's not making deliveries, they don't happen. And so he went to his boss, and he asked his boss about giving him a month of non-paid leave. His boss agreed to it. Not only did he agree to it, but he also said that he wouldn't hire another company driver. They went without a company driver for the 4 weeks that we were gone, so that when he got back, he still had his spot at his job. When I spoke to my boss, I'm a teacher. You cannot pause a teaching contract. You just can't. And when I spoke to my boss, I told her, I said, I know this seems crazy, but the Lord is calling us to Mexico, and we want to be obedient, and we need to go now. And she said, what do you mean you need to go now? And I was like, I need to go now. I need to go. We need to book a plane within the next 2 weeks. And she looked at me, and she said, Kiara, she said, any other employee I would think was absolutely insane. I work at a private Christian school. My son gets private tuition. It's wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. And she told me, she said, this must be a God thing, because the moment that you're asking me to do this is the only time this year that I'm able to let you go and put a sub in your place for 4 weeks. She said, testing is over. And she said, that is the only reason why I'm able to let you do this. And I told her, I said, well, what about my son? There's a list. If he leaves, will somebody else get his spot? And she said, no, I will hold his spot tuition free. This is a God thing. It's a God thing. And so when we got to Knossos, when the last week that we were there, when we got to Knossos and we were with Brother Tolman, the Lord we remembered our fleeces. We remembered the fleece about the jobs. We remembered the fleece about school, because if we had it here, we needed it there. And when I was there, Brother Tolman took us to a school there. It's a private bilingual Christian school, just like the one that my son is at now, other than the bilingual part. We met the principal there, and immediately when I met the principal, he looked at me. He said, I like you. You have a job. He said, your son has free tuition. It's a God thing. It's a God thing.
And so, as we end this, just remember that we prayed, we fasted, we've fleeced the Lord, we have spied out the land, and we have answered the call. Matthew 22:14, I believe it says, for many are called, but few are chosen. And we have taken it upon ourselves to be the chosen one. For many are called, but you also have the choice to be chosen, for God to use you and to lead you and to guide you and work with you and mentor you. So if you take on that call, it is for you. Tad Shingledecker, he texted Kiara and I June 6th of 2019 after we come back from Mexico, about to go to camp in Arkansas. And he said in his text message, he said, I felt the word on my heart for a couple of days now. He said, it's not can you, it's will you. Many can and won't, but few will and trust. And we knew right then, we started in January saying, I woke up, Mexico is it's going to be our new place of home. This is where we're called to be, to the point to where we are putting our house on the market that we just bought last November. And God told us in January of 2019, be missionaries. And we have lived there less than a year now to this point. So we trust God. And so in January of 2020, it's weird to say, we will be headed down to Mexico with just our clothes and a few toys of MJ's that we can take with us. So needless to say, we went to Mexico, and Brother Tolman told us, he said, you've got to sell everything. And I'm just like, everything? I thought about getting a U-Haul, packing this thing full, taking everything with me, every little piece of paper and crumb in the floor. It was all going to Mexico. And what little did I realize at that time, that Brother Tolman was right. We had to sell everything. Even the house that we just bought. Even the clothes that we just bought, and we had to donate to Goodwill yesterday, and things hanging on our wall, and everything has to go. Except for our laptops and clothes and a few of MJ's toys. So this is not an easy task for us. Can you imagine living in a home and having small things? I've got a trunk, and I've had a couple of things in there, and I'm going to end it here, that were from my childhood. And it was so hard for me to be like, man, I remember getting this at the age of 10 or 12, or I remember playing with this toy, and I just still had it. I don't know why. I just had it, just something that I had, and having to give that away. It's one of the hardest things to do. It would be very hard to do. But we thank God for this opportunity and the journey that he has taken us on. We are still trusting God and still trusting in his promises, and that he is going to continue to lead and guide us.
Remain standing. The old song, you don't hear this one much, but there's a voice calling me from an old rugged tree, and it whispers, draw closer to me, leave your world far behind. There are new heights to climb and a new life in me you will find. I'll trade sunshine for rain, comfort for pain. That's what I'll be willing to do for whatever it takes for my will to break. That's Lord. That is what I am willing to do. And I commend this crowd for being here today. It speaks so highly of you. They're going to be under trusted leadership in Stephen Tolman. You know that. Elder Tolman passed away last week. And what an honor it was to know them. Very quickly, it takes money to ride the bus. And so I want to be open and transparent. They have sought counsel. Obviously, they have no idea in Mexico what's going on financially wise, so they sought counsel. It looks like for them to begin, they're going to need a budget of $2,500 a month to begin, lodging, gas, food, on and on and on. That's not living lavishly, that's getting by. They're going to learn the culture and the language primarily the first year. Obviously, Kiara knows a lot of the language. Matt doesn't, so they're going to get involved in the culture and the language as they settle in with MJ, getting him adjusted. I've talked to our people that run our church here, the tax firm that runs our church, and we have set up a separate account here, not missions account, not tithing account, not building fund account, a separate Huddleston account that won't be run through them. It'll be run through the church. This is how it helps them. And every dime that other churches give, they're going to send to us. It dumps in that account. They can have a card to get out of the account, on and on and on. That's how it has to work. Our home church, their home church, is for sure going to support them. And no pun intended, but we're moving them to the top of the food chain because we believe in what they are doing. We will add a link out there coming up on Square that will just say the Huddlestons. I'm asking, and I know Matt and Kiera's in agreement with this, don't strip. Our church is not going to strip all of our other missionaries to support them. Stephen Tolman and Philip, would you believe this? They actually give 10% of their missions to other missions. And Philip's always told me if churches would give 10%, what could we do? And I said, well, we do that. He said, that's why you're blessed. But they're going to Arkansas. They're going here, there, and everywhere. And we're hoping some pastors will look at them and say, hey, here's such and such a month. And such a month helps. And so our church is going to automatically, we're in the process now of counting the cost. What can we give them a month? But we want to make it available to you. For instance, if we had 40 people that said, I'll give $25. I'm not talking about taking away your tithes and offerings. This is extra. If 40, I'm making a standard here, not a standard, a example. 40 people gave $25 a month. That's $1,000. We combine that with what they're going to get, with what our church is going to give. You say, what if they get $4,000 a month and not $2,500 a month? Then thank God, because they're going to need a rainy day fund. If 100 people in this church, now it's a long time since I went to school. If I'm off, y'all get on Google and help me. 100 people at $10 a month is 1,000. Our church runs close to 300 people. And I just like to see us do it. I'm not twisting, pulling. This is not a push, pull, drag sale. But I'm telling you, if they're giving up everything, 2 Starbucks a month could help them. Two double Frappuccino white mocha with sprinkles on top could help them survive in Mexico. We're proud of them. Put 5 minutes on the timer. Here's what I need y'all to do. Number one, start thinking about it. January is just around the corner. If you want to go ahead and start dumping stuff where we can build it up, I understand. Pray about it. Don't laugh at me here. If you give $5 a month, it's $5 they didn't have. If you can give $50, whatever. But we thank God for them today. I need everybody to be back in here in 5 minutes. We got a lot to do today. God bless you.